The slap of anger came before the words. The hotel manager's voice cut through the grand lobby, sharp and cruel, telling the homeless man to leave before security was called. Guests slowed their steps. Phones hovered. No one moved to help. And then the maid stepped forward, her cleaning cart rattling, her hands trembling as she placed herself between power and poverty, unaware that the man she was protecting was the one who truly held all the power. Her name was Lena. She wore a faded uniform that smelled of soap and long hours. Her shoes were thin, her back always slightly bent, as if the weight of the world had trained her body to bow before it. She had been cleaning the marble floor when she noticed the homeless man sitting near the tall glass doors. Rain dripping from his coat, his hands red from the cold. He had not asked for money. He had not spoken. He had only sat there, quiet, tired, invisible. And yet his presence offended them. Lena saw how the manager's face twisted, how his voice grew louder, how guards were already being signaled from across the lobby. Something inside her tightened. She had known this look all her life, the look of people who believed rules mattered more than humanity. She stepped forward before fear could stop her. The homeless man looked up at her then. His eyes were calm, deep, and strangely steady for someone who had nothing. He shook his head slightly, as if to tell her not to get involved. But Lena stayed. In that moment, no one knew the truth. Not the manager. Not the guests. Not even Lena herself. The man they wanted to throw out owned the hotel, the street outside, and the company behind it all. He was the CEO, pretending to be poor, watching quietly to see who still remembered how to be kind. Lena's story began far from marble floors and golden lights. She grew up in a small, crowded home where the walls were thin and the nights were loud. Her father worked until his hands cracked. Her mother cleaned houses until her knees gave out. Lena learned early that silence was safer than complaints. She learned that dignity often lived in endurance. When her parents passed within a year of each other, she was barely 20. The house was sold. Dreams were packed into boxes that never got unpacked. She took the first job she could find, cleaning rooms in the city's most expensive hotel. Every day, she walked through wealth that felt like another planet. Crystal lights, soft carpets, food she could never afford, people who never noticed her unless something was wrong. She scrubbed stains left by careless hands. She picked up towels soaked in luxury. And every night, she returned to a small rented room that smelled of old paint and instant noodles. Yet she never lost her habit of noticing people. The tired ones. The forgotten ones. The ones like her. The homeless man had been coming for weeks. Always quiet. Always respectful. He sat in corners, watched people pass, and left before trouble came. Lena sometimes brought him leftover bread wrapped in napkins. He always thanked her with a nod and a soft smile. He never asked her name. She never asked his. What Lena did not know was that his name was Daniel Hale. Daniel had built his company from nothing. He had slept in his car once. He had missed meals. He had lost friends chasing a dream no one believed in. When success came, it came fast and loud. Boardrooms, private jets, endless praise. And somewhere along the way, he felt something important slip away. People stopped telling him the truth, so he disappeared. For 1 month each year, Daniel dressed in worn clothes and walked through the spaces his money touched. His hotels, his offices, his streets. He watched how people treated someone they believed had no value. It was his way of remembering, his way of measuring the soul of what he had built. That morning, he chose the lobby. The conflict grew quickly. The manager spoke of rules, of image, of standards. His voice echoed off the high ceiling. Guests watched with polite distance. Some frowned. Some whispered. Most stayed silent. Lena stood there, her heart racing, her palms damp. She knew the risk. One complaint and she could lose her job, lose her room, lose everything she had left. But she also knew what it felt like to be pushed aside like dirt on a clean floor. She spoke softly, but clearly. She said the man was not hurting anyone. She said the rain outside was heavy. She said there was room for kindness. The manager laughed, a short, sharp sound that cut deeper than shouting. He told her to get back to work. He reminded her who paid her wages. Daniel watched her with a strange ache in his chest. He had seen fear before. He had lived it. But this was different. This was courage with nothing to gain. Security stepped closer. The air felt tight. The homeless man slowly stood, ready to leave, unwilling to let her suffer for him. Lena shook her head, tears burning her eyes, refusing to move. This was how injustice often lived. Loud power, quiet goodness, and a crowd that pretended not to see. The days that followed only deepened the tension. The manager watched Lena closely. Tasks grew harder. Breaks grew shorter. Her cart felt heavier. Her smile faded. Guests began to treat her with less patience, sensing weakness. And yet every day, she still brought bread to Daniel when she could. They began to talk then. Not much, simple words. Weather, life. He asked about her childhood. She asked about his travels. He never lied, but he never told the full truth. He spoke of losing his way. She spoke of trying to survive. There was a quiet bond between them, built in pauses and shared silence. Lena felt seen in a way she never had before. Daniel felt something warm and painful at the same time. Respect. One evening, as the lobby glowed with soft light, the manager confronted Daniel again. This time, guests were gathered for a charity event. Cameras flashed. The image mattered more than ever. The manager's voice rose. Security moved fast. Lena was called over, accused of encouraging the problem. Her hands shook as she stood beside Daniel once more. Daniel could have ended it then. One word. One phone call. But he waited. He wanted to see how far cruelty would go when it believed itself untouchable. A guest muttered that rules were rules. Another said someone should do something. No one stepped forward. Lena looked at Daniel and said quietly that some rules were wrong. That was when the shift began. A man in a dark suit entered the lobby. Then another. Then another. Their presence was calm, controlled, undeniable. They did not rush. They did not raise their voices. They simply stood. The manager's confidence faltered. The lead man addressed Daniel with respect, asking if everything was all right. Lena felt confusion ripple through her. The homeless man straightened. His shoulders squared. His tired posture vanished like a costume being set aside. He nodded once. The truth unfolded, without shouting, without anger. The manager learned who he had been yelling at. Guests realized what they had witnessed. Silence spread like a wave. Daniel spoke then, his voice steady, carrying weight without force. He said that a place that rejected humanity did not deserve luxury. He said that dignity should not depend on clothes. He said that the true measure of a person was how they treated someone who could offer them nothing. Those words stayed. The manager's face drained of color. Apologies came too late. Authority crumbled without a fight. Lena stood frozen, tears streaming down her face, shock and awe mixing in her chest. Daniel turned to her, gratitude clear in his eyes. He told her she had done the right thing. He told her that courage was quiet, that hers had been louder than any command. The lobby changed that night. Guests stood in silence, some lowering their heads. Security stepped back. The rain outside slowed. In the days that followed, Lena's life transformed in ways she never expected. She was offered education, support, and a new role within the company, not as charity, but as recognition. Her kindness became policy. Her courage became culture. Daniel returned to his office, but something in him had healed. He no longer felt lost. Their connection did not fade. It grew slow and careful, built on trust, respect, and shared understanding. Love, when it came, felt simple and strong, not as a rescue, but as a meeting of equals. The story spread not as gossip, but as a reminder that sometimes the richest hearts wear the poorest clothes. That silence can be power. That one small act of courage can shift an entire world. And somewhere, A poor maid once stood between cruelty and kindness, unaware that the man she defended was a king in disguise, and in doing so, she revealed the truth about them both. If this story moved you, share where you are watching from. Tell us what you would have done in Lena's place, and subscribe for more stories that honor the quiet strength of ordinary heroes.